Welcome to DentonRadio.com, powered in part by the Denton Black Film Festival and Classic of Denton. We are coming at you live on DentonRadio.com with yet another awesome interview we have been really looking forward to. The Denton Black Film Festival is officially underway, and so in the studio we have the man himself, the writer and producer of All or Nothin, Mr. Charles Campbell. How are you doing today?
Fine, Jake. How are you?
Doing great, man. Been really excited to get you in here because everybody I have been talking to has been doing nothing but raving about this film, and so we are really, really excited to get to talk about it today.
Well, thank you. I'm honored, and thanks, Connor, for handling the boards over there. All right, whoop-de-whoop.
Connor's off camera, unfortunately.
That's all right. I'm on, so let's do it.
He doesn't get enough screen time.
Let's do it, guys.
So tell us a little bit about the film for anybody that hasn't heard of it before.
The title of the film is All or Nothin, Nothin.
Okay.
And it's a period piece, 1853, based on a true story, one of the largest recorded escapes in the Underground Railroad history. And the original escape embodied 28 people, slaves, freedom seekers, that with the current word, trying to escape their owners, fleeing from northern Kentucky, Boone County, Kentucky, and making their way through Cincinnati, parts of Indiana, up through Michigan, and then doglegging back over east through Michigan and through across the Detroit River into Canada West, which is Ontario today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Lucinda Breeding from the Denton Record Chronicle was in here the other day, and she wrote a great piece that I guess came out this morning. And she, when she was in here interviewing with us, she singled out your piece and said something that I thought was really cool. And I'm trying to remember the exact quote, but she said something to the effect of usually a slave narrative will make you sad, it'll make you angry, it'll make you this, it'll make you but that this piece really speaks to you and is extremely moving. To just about anybody that could watch it, regardless of background or who they are or whatever perspective they're looking at. And so we've been really excited to get to talk about this. And one of the things we talked about before we got going today was this isn't necessarily from one perspective. This is a story of many, yes, and everybody coming together and working together. Which is really, really interesting. So can you give us a little bit more on that for people that need a little taste of the film?
Oh, sure. The piece embodies a multi-racial or ensemble cast, and it's just by design that the Underground Railroad worked that way. It wasn't one person, wasn't one protagonist, one antagonist, but several that helped along the way in these safe houses, and many of them still exist today with crawl spaces and tunnels, if you will. And so in writing the story, my goal was to give the slaves a voice, because quite often in these stories their narratives were destroyed, and so you get the you get the viewpoint or the vantage of just the historian or someone who might have abolitionist who might have been, who was white and who wrote their books. And so I had a lot of creative licensing, but I also had to stay in bounds with the records as they were recorded and researched. And so it was very important that for a change, the slaves had a voice. If you think in many slavery movies, the slaves are just standing around. They're just kind of like, like robots. And that's not, in my mind, how even this escape, which had 28 people in the real story, and that was very important that I give them some type of energy, because I just can't see where the Great White Hope led 28 people 400 miles and them not having any interaction or input.
Sure.
So that was that was very important, and to do character arcs and story arcs and themes, motifs, symbols, foreshadowing, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, really
I just
cool.
threw those words at you.
I
learned them in film school. So
I dig it.
You better use it.
Love it. So it's not a documentary. I learned that the hard way. It's not it's not a documentary. It is a narrative drama,
Yes,
and so there is a story for people to be able to follow, but there's also going to be a Q&A after the film as well, that I think a lot of people are really looking forward to. It's also an invitational film,
yes.
which is very cool. Now you, we got the opportunity to talk a little bit about the differences between, major motion pictures and indie films, and the challenges that can come together with that. And you guys really pulled off some incredible stuff with, as far as the as many places as you shot and on the budgets that you guys were on. Give us a few of those stories as far as the process of making this film.
Everyone was committed. Everyone was dedicated to the film. I do believe, and we all have different levels of spirituality, not religion, but spirituality. But I do believe that this story was begging to be told by the people who were the heroes of this particular, not escape, but just the Underground Railroad in specifically. And, for example, we filmed in one of the homes. It's called the Parker Farm, and that's where 12 of the slaves actually escaped from. And one of the rooms in the house was off limits. And what I mean by that is there were spirits in there that none of us would go in the room. I mean, we just froze at the door.
Whoa.
And yeah, exactly. And so the process involved not only traveling together collectively as a group, much like the slaves did and the abolitionists, but it involved we made our own boats, skiffs. We made our own guns. Of course, we had a professional gun maker with us.
Yeah.
But everything we made, the costumes. We went to a college, a technical or fabric fashion school, and made the uniforms. And so we try, and we went the same route that they traveled. So it's been recorded that they traveled over 350 miles, and we did it in 11 days, and the actual story was 3 weeks. So we got a taste of what it might have been like, how harrowing and challenging with bounty hunters, chasing, and then the whole thing. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I've heard from many people that create art that when you have a story like that is begging you to tell it, the universe has a way of testing you, of putting things in front of you to understand that perspective, to be able to tell that story, which is really, really incredible to get to hear. And I think it just when those kind of things happen, it takes the end result to such a new level. And I think why so many people are being impacted by this film, because you guys were able to dive so deep into it in the process of making it. So I know I'm just fanning all over it because
it's fun.
I haven't heard an unkind word about it from anybody.
Well, that's very humbling. The whole process is. I'd like to say one thing. I'm not against documentaries. I love documentaries. I just saw one a minute ago on linguistics and language, and it's just. There's a difference. There's a solid difference, and the writing style is different, and so that's all I will ever write. Narrative dramas. I'm too old to be trying to do other type of story. I was gonna say I'm gonna do documentaries. I'm gonna do narrative dramas, and that's it. But no, it's. I'm really proud of this piece, not just for me, but for our cast and crew who poured their hearts into it. Everybody did. The people who helped us along the way. This film, All or Nothing, mirrors the actual Underground Railroad in the sense that the camaraderie and the people who stepped up to help. It started as a thought, and now in 6 weeks since post-production, we really aren't even done yet. We've had over 5,000 people view the film, and it's growing. So it's very humbling, and I'm very honored. And I hope we pack the house tomorrow because it does have a strong message, and that people should work. We have to work together. We must work together and put this behind us.
Let's dive a little deeper into that, into working together, the importance of that, some of the messages of this film, because there is some education to this piece that a lot of people are coming away with. I'd love to touch a little more on that as some of the things that people can leave this film learning or seeing or just experiencing in a new light.
First, simply the fact that there were over a dozen abolitionists that helped with this escape. And we mentioned at least 12 of them and showcase them, even if it's just a bit role, like a cameo role of shaking of a hand or passing the baton, if you will. Second, I don't want to say the first time, but rarely in a slavery film have you seen blacks, whites, Wesleyan, Methodists, Quakers, or Wesleyan Methodist Quakers, men, women, children working together to accomplish a common task, and especially during the 1850s. And the question I ask to anyone who hears this, would today, how many people do you think, even in your own inner circle, would risk their lives for somebody they didn't know? Okay, now that's strong.
Yeah.
I mean, these people had nothing to gain except for the fact that they were righting a wrong, an evil that they knew, and so they gave it all up to, not just the slaves or not just the abolitionists, but everybody who was a part of these escapes. So that's pretty commendable in my book.
Yeah.
They're heroes. Yeah.
Well, it's incredible, and we got the opportunity to talk about the importance of unity and all of us coming together and working together before we got started today. And I this is actually the last interview that we're doing. We've been doing interviews for the last month and a half with people making films and doing things for the festival, and I think what a fitting way to wrap up this series of interviews that we've been doing with something that so strongly talks about all of us coming together and working together, and the importance of that for all of us.
That's right. That's right.
Really incredible. I saw an interview with Warren Buffett, and he said something the other day. I thought it was a very interesting way of looking at the world, and he said, imagine that a genie came to you 24 hours before you're going to be born, and he says, okay, I'm going to grant you the ability to set up the world however you want. You set the rules. You're going to be born tomorrow. You set the rules. How do you want it to be, right? And so you start thinking, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and all these things that are going to come back to benefit me. And he says, okay, but there's a catch. You don't get to decide how you're going to be born. You don't get to decide where you're going to be born, what gender, what race, what this, what da 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 da. If you have a handicap, if you have this, if you have that, it's a lotto ball. You're going to be stuck there. So while you're thinking of how you want the universe to be set up, keep that in mind. And he was saying, so that's why he said, so that's the way I always encourage people to look at how they want to live their life, is looking out for the people around them, because of it. It's just a lotto ball, right?
Why do you think that's so difficult for people to do?
I think it has to be a series of perspective of, if there's only one thing you've ever known, then it's difficult for you to say, okay, well, then I want to change this rule or this rule or this rule or this rule. And I think that's where the real power of film festivals and these kinds of things can make you kind of come out of your seat and go, man, this is a totally different narrative for all of life than I've ever seen. And that's what's made me fall in love with these kind of festivals.
Well, good point. I hope you get to see the movie tomorrow.
Yeah.
I do.
I'm really excited about it.
I do.
Really, really excited about it. Well, guys, if you have not gotten your tickets thus far, you need to. Got the Denton Black Film Festival this weekend. Go to dentonbff.com. That's Denton Best Friends Forever, or the Denton Black Film Festival, however you want to look at it. Whatever makes you remember. You make sure you go to dentonbff.com. Get your tickets. Check it out. It is going to be today, tomorrow, and Sunday. Don't miss it. This is a big, big thing that happens here in Denton. We're really excited to get to be a part of it. Thank you so much for being here in the studio.
Thank you, sir. Look forward to seeing you all tomorrow at noon at the what's the theater?
Campus Theater.
Campus Theater.
There you go.
Camp, I got stuck. Campus Theater, and we'll have a nice Q&A afterwards.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for tuning in, everybody. We're going to jump back into the music. Stay tuned. We got the Frank Buck Zoo in the house tonight. We got Free Beer Friday in the house tonight. We got a lot of cool stuff happening. Stay tuned right here to DentonRadio.com. dentonblackfilmfestival.com. We appreciate it. Have a good one. Well, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. We want to remind you, don't miss your chance to get your tickets to the Denton Black Film Festival happening this weekend. Also, make sure you check out our friends Classic of Denton at classicofdenton.com.